Smash! The door went flying across the room, and in marched the biggest criminal known to mankind. Philip laughed as he walked in. You really thought you could hide from me forever? It's quite funny how you survived so long. You know the first assassin I sent for you? That just disappeared into thin air? Well, I found her dead. And with her, I found all the dead bodies of the rest of the assassins I sent after her. And many of my followers. The most interesting thing I found there was that picture of you. That she fell in love with you, and you had him, pointing at Bobby. Out of nowhere, a gun shot Bobby's dead right in the eyeball. Sorry you had to die, buddy. Don't worry, I'll take care of your son, Ed. Then Philip gave an injection to Bobby which made him fall asleep immediately. But Philip had to be very careful. If he had given him too much of the super chemical, then Bobby would have died. That should take care of him, mumbled Philip. When Bobby woke up, he was dazed and confused. All his dizziness and confusion turned to fear when he realized he was dangling down from the ceiling. He would have screamed, but if he had not been gagged by some disgusting pizza. He was not gagged by like tissue paper, handkerchief, or something. He was gagged by rotten, half-eaten, disgusting pizza. Then Bobby remembered what had happened last night. Because the pizza reminded him of the food they were eating last night when Philip smashed and ruined his family. Bobby was scared to death. He almost started crying, but then he saw the other children dangling from the ceiling. He was like a little bit more relaxed, but he was still freaking out. Hi, Bobby. This is the home of orphans, or as we call it, Tartarus for awesome kids. Sorry about the scars. Everybody needs them. Sorry about your mom and dad. Out of nowhere, whips lashed out at Gary. Bobby was so surprised, he screamed, and all Bobby did was shove them aside. And Gary screamed into thin air, "You can tell me instead of whipping me!" Then Philip came out of the shadow and announced, "Welcome, Bobby, to your new home. This is where your dad grew up, and so did your mom." Bobby screamed at where the voice came from. "Shut up! You don't even deserve to say my mom and dad's name out loud, you bastard!" And Bobby spit in the direction the voice came from. Philip laughed back at Bobby. Bobby. You really think I would show myself to you filthy pigs? You're just like your father, an ignorant fool. This time the voice came from a different direction. Bobby spit in that direction too, but all in return, he got lashes of whips, powerful, strong. It scarred him so hard he could barely move. And all before he blacked out, all he heard was the evil laughter of Philip. When Bobby regained consciousness, Gary was waiting for him outside the whipping center. Gary had with him all the supplies he needed for the tour. First, Gary showed him the training ground. He knew Bobby loved kung fu since he was born, but his mom and dad never let him join one. Bobby liked and also hated the church. He hated the church because his mom and dad always took him there every Sunday. It brought back bad memories. It also brought back good memories, all the good times he had with his parents. Bobby hated the whipping center. Well, not only him. Almost everybody hated the whipping center. You had to go there at least 3 times each day to get whipped. Gary summed up the entire thing like it was a poor village. Gary kept on explaining about the area for hours and hours and hours. Fine. And he also explained that there were more branches to this organization. There were kids like him stuck the same way as he was halfway across the world. The next day, Bobby was so tired he could barely move. if he even moved a millimeter, his body would ache so badly. His eyes were flooded with tears. It was like dying of old age, being shot in the leg and not dying for hours. Bobby finally made it to the nurse. When the nurse saw how much pain Bobby was in, the nurse carried Bobby in. She gave him a few medicines to take. It was finally the time for him to start begging. The first few days, Bobby stayed with Gary. Then later on, he started to move to the more crowded areas, and he went further and further and further. For a festival in Sichuan, Gary and Bobby were forced to go into a cage because the government thought they were distracting the tourists. But Gary and Bobby were happy they went in there because they got extra money. Later on, there was this guy that handed out free buns to this beggar. Bobby and Gary were lucky that every time Bobby and Gary were there, this guy, Tom, was handing out free buns. More and more homeless centers were built for them. After Bobby got an invitation, he thought long and hard. Everybody kept telling him not to go, but he didn't see any reason why not. But so Bobby agreed to join one. After a few years, Bobby was adopted. First, Bobby didn't want to go, but after a month or so, he agreed, and he and his family lived happily ever after. People think that, but he was kept being followed by Philip. One day, Philip caught to them, and then when Philip found Bobby, Bobby was lying in bed. He was almost dead, but he was also a grandpa. And, well, Philip killed Bobby. He took the children, and the cycle repeated and over and over again.